If you follow my channel at all, you'll know that I've been playing a lot with medium wave lately because I have this nice new Sangean PR4, I always forget not PR, D4W. Sorry for all the fingerprints on the back of it. This is a very nice medium wave performer. But I lucked out and was able to also buy a very nice example of a GE Superradio 2 from the 80s presumably. And this is also, a kind of legendary medium wave performer. And I've evaluated both of these by comparison with my Sangean 909X2, which doesn't usually get a lot of hype as a medium wave performer. It's generally considered okay. Although I will say, plugging this into it, which is a Texan ANT 200, can help it quite a lot. But we're not talking about that today. Well, we're not. I'm not talking about that today. I'm talking about using the internal antennas, and I just want to sort of talk in a kind of broad way about how they compare. So, assuming you've got a half-decent, not local, but half-decent distance, say I'm in Toronto, say we've got a decent signal from Buffalo, which radio sounds better? No question. The Superradio 2 is a fantastic sounding radio. My example doesn't have any problems with it. This is, like that scratch in the display, in the cover over the dial is the worst damage on this thing. This is an almost perfect example. The dial is very slightly out, but it's consistently across, and I don't intend to make any attempt to fix that. So, yeah, perfect. I don't think anyone's ever opened it. I'm certainly not going to. It's working fine. So, yes, this Superradio 2 largely does live up to the hype. It's fantastic. It sounds great. It has great sensitivity. But in the city, with the amount of noise around me, sensitivity isn't what wins. For practical purposes, all three radios will pull in anything that you want. With a caveat that sometimes some of our strong local stations will drown out or overwhelm the selectivity of the Superradio 2. And sometimes the automatic fine-tuning, I'm not sure exactly what it does, but on this one will sometimes cause oddities, which means you miss a signal. The trick to that is actually if you tune from the top, tune from the bottom, often that fixes the problem. And in those sorts of situations, the greater control that you have with the 909X2 often works. So remember, this is an environment where the problem is noise and interference. Sensitivity doesn't necessarily win. Selectivity, which of course is highly selectable on the two Sangeans, but particularly you have control on the 909X2. Sometimes it wins the day, but when it comes to sound, it's going to be the Superradio 2, or it's going to be the, again, I always forget the model number of this thing, PR D4W. I don't know why it's so hard for that to stay, but in my head. So PR D4W is also a very nice sounding radio. So, that said, no matter what, if you're listening, this Superradio 2 is just great. It's just like big honking thing. And the selectivity on it is really very good. It says right so on the dial. Long range, so high sensitive and highly selective it is. Unless it's totally overwhelmed by a radio tower that I can almost see here from here. It's fine, right? It you can easily DX, every single, so you can go 1,000, 1,010, 1,020, 1,030, no problem at all. It's the bandwidth is very well chosen. It's almost always pleasant. It is sensitive. It can certainly pick up signals that this can't. I did that earlier tonight. In terms of sensitivity, I think the D4W comes close. It comes surprisingly close, but it's still the big boy here. But again, right, in this noisy environment, you'd be surprised at how well this one does too. So, just some fun, really, just to talk about my acquisition of the Superradio 2, really. It's great, and it's going to get a lot more use around here. Anyhow, thanks for watching.